Hi, today we'll be repotting my beautiful Oncidium Sharry baby yellow flash, as the flowers are spent and Oncidiums don't usually put out secondary spikes, so I'm okay to cut this one and to repot this orchid, which was never repotted so far, and I'm very curious what I will find in the pot. Now, before we start, I just want to address some important issues because I want my channel to be an educational one. So these will be some safety issues that you might already know, but for those of you who don't know, I just want to mention them. So, first of all, when you're working with orchids, always use gloves. Any kind of protective gloves, like surgical ones or these type of ones, whatever suits you. The reason for this is that most importantly, it's for your health, because especially sphagnum moss can transmit a fungus that affects your skin. If you have a cut or an open wound, as small as it can be infected, and it can lead to very, very serious complications. I'm dead serious about this. Google it, sphagnum moss, fungus, contamination, something like that. Just Google it, dangers or something like that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. There's also a reference on it on Wikipedia. There have been some cases, and as a statistic, 1 or 2 persons out of a million get it. It might not be dramatic, but anyway, you never know. So be safe. Take care of your health and be responsible. Don't transform this hobby from a beautiful thing to a health hazard. You don't have to be scared by this. It rarely happens, and if you're using protective gear, you're safe and nothing can happen. Okay, this is for medium. Also, if you're working with bar chips, you might want to wear some protective goggles or glasses as well, especially when you're teasing, the roots from the bark, because one time a shred of bark got into my eye while I was doing this, and it really wasn't pleasant. It's really not sanitary. I learned my lesson. So when you're doing meticulous stuff with the bark medium, you might want to use them. They're very helpful. Also, I know a lot of people do this. I do it myself. When I pot my orchids, I like to make extra holes in the pots, and the method I actually use, just because maybe I'm lazy, is like heating a nail and making some holes in the pots. The problem with this is that melted plastic fumes are toxic. Okay, so especially if you're in a small room and no windows are open, they can be very toxic. So open your windows, or better yet, use a mask like this one. I do use it all the time. It's cheap, and it's fairly easy to use, and use it because it's very, very good. Okay, another thing, always use sterilized equipment. You can sterilize it with alcohol or with a flame or whatever suits you, bleach. I do sterilize it with alcohol. This is the type of alcohol I find here. I don't find isopropyl, but this is good. This is 70% alcohol. Anyway, don't use this to spray orchids, because it is based on ethanol. So ethanol damages plant tissue. Don't use this on plants. Use it to sterilize your gear. This will prevent spreading viruses between orchids and other issues. Okay, safety time over. Thank you for listening to this. Let's get to work now. Okay, we're back. So the first thing I'm gonna do is to cut the spike this Oncidium already has here. As I told you, it's spent, and I'm not expecting any side shots out of this one. So how I'm gonna cut it is, I'll try to go as low as I can, right about here. I hope you can see this. I'll cut it right about here. This is the cut spike. as a safety method, you can apply some cinnamon dust on the cut. I will not at this time because, as you can see, the spike got into the leaves here, and it's really protected here. Okay, I'm gonna take out the spike. And first of all, some people prefer to soak their orchids before repotting. This actually loosens up the roots, especially if you're dealing with a very pot-bound orchid. I don't usually like to do this because, in my experience, roots don't tend to get too flexible, or they don't get as flexible as I would want them to. I think the proper term would be they get loosened up. They will not get flexible at all, especially if they're very pot-bound. But yeah, I don't like to do this because it just creates a mess. And depending on the orchid, sometimes I do it, but depending on the orchid, I see if it's necessary or not. And right here, I don't believe it's necessary, as this little plant doesn't seem to have too many roots, doesn't seem to be pot-bound. It was bought at a discount, so I am really expecting some lack of roots. So yeah. But if you are dealing with a difficult orchid, yeah, you might want to soak it. It's a preference, it's a personal preference at the end of the day. So do what's best, what works for you. I'll squeeze the pot gently before anything, just to make sure that the roots get even more loosened up. And now, let's see what's inside. Came out rather fast. Oh, okay. The medium doesn't seem to be very rotted, but I never know what's going on with the roots and what's in the middle, so I always like to check. So yeah, even though I think it's a good medium, I will not keep it. I never keep the medium that the orchid comes with. I will throw this away. Now I'm going to gently tease the roots, as I see a lot of root tips growing, which is very, very good. I wasn't expecting this, as this orchid was actually very dehydrated when I bought it. You can see that from the leaves and the bulbs. Didn't receive enough water, and usually when you get this, you are going to deal with an orchid that has rotted roots. But this one, I just think it wasn't watered enough. And that's what happened, as the roots seem to be in rather good shape, and as expected, it has sphagnum moss in the middle, which will be definitely eliminated. Problem with sphagnum moss, it retains too much water sometimes, and if you're doing this sort of mix of putting sphagnum moss in the middle and then bark, you will always think the bark is dried and you will want to water it, but actually in the middle it will be very, very moist, and you will most probably kill the roots. So yeah, a good idea is either to make a mix, either to not use sphagnum moss. Okay, I will continue to tease the roots like this. It will be a rather long process, so I will pause the video here, and I will come back after this orchid is cleaned.